All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first off, a very warm welcome. On behalf of the International Students and Programs Office, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. I know that many of you have arrived. It's been really fun. I know some of you got to attend our UC San Diego bus tour. I'm excited to see a lot of you at our coffee hour later this morning. I also know that some of you are in the process of traveling. So we are excited to welcome you wherever in your journey you may be as you make your way over to UC San Diego. First off, my name is Grace Fuller. I have the pleasure of serving as the Manager of Student Experience and Engagement here at ISPO, or otherwise known as the International Students and Programs Office. I've done a couple intros, so I'm trying to think of new material, but a little bit about me. One thing I love to do in my free time is spend time in the outdoors. So one thing I love is to snorkel, specifically in La Jolla Cove. I actually went yesterday, and the juvenile sea lion pups are very playful right now. They're super fun. They'll swim right up to you. So if you see me at an international orientation event, ask me about snorkeling. I can tell you some of my favorite spots to go in San Diego. But it's just so fun to live in San Diego and have a beautiful backyard to explore. So excited to see you all soon. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. So as a reminder, because this is a webinar, you are in listen-only mode, which means you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. We are recording, so this webinar, as well as other international orientation webinars, will be available at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. And finally, we encourage you to utilize the Q&A feature on your Zoom menu bar. That's how you can submit your questions during today's session. If for any reason we don't get your question answered today, you can always reach out to us at icontact.ucsd.edu, and that's a great way to contact our office. And with that, let's begin. So today's session is focusing on how to protect yourself, so campus safety and scams. We have a number of wonderful presenters joining us. So we'll take a minute briefly to allow our different partners to introduce themselves before we hand it off to our first presenter. So we'll go down the line here. And Sheldon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I'm Sheldon King. I am a sergeant at the University of California, San Diego Police Department. I've been here 17 years. I've had a bunch of titles throughout my time here, but my current title is Community Service Officer Coordinator. So I'm in charge of our student workers. We have a ton of international students that work for the police department. So now will be a good time for me to recruit. So if any of you need a job coming in, my emails should be at the end of this. But welcome, and I'm glad to be here. I'll pass it on. Oh, we're gonna go down the line. On you, John.
Sorry, I don't know what your line looks like. Where did I go? Hi, everybody. I'm John Carlos Sr. I'm an attorney, and I'm the director at Student Legal Services. So my office provides free confidential counseling, education, and referrals to all currently registered UCSD students. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're looking forward to seeing you. And also my pronouns are he, him. I will pass it down to whoever's below me. I can't tell.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Garcia. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the senior victim advocate at the CARE office. And the CARE office is the Sexual Assault Resource Center for the campus community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Casper, pronouns he, him, and I'm a student accounts advisor here at Student Financial Solutions. So any general questions regarding billing or payment inquiries, feel free to contact our office. You might very well be connected with myself, and I'm more than happy to help out.
Okay, so with that, we are going to go ahead and begin. We have our first partner, Sheldon, will be talking a little bit about how to avoid scams, phishing, and identity theft from the UC San Diego Police Department. Over to you, Sheldon.
All right, thank you, Grace. And this area of the presentation, throughout this whole presentation, you're going to hear scam, 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 scam. And mainly it's because of our international students are coming to the US and people are taking advantage of them. So once you get here, you're going to hear all kind of things that may sound great, jobs and how to get housing, but we want to make sure you confirm what you are doing. And if there's ever a question, please come to the police department or contact me, and then I'll be able to talk to you about that. So next slide, please. So again, work for the police department. Our international students are important to us. We every so often now, because we're getting better at informing them about the different issues that occur when our international students come to the U.S. So now we work with our campus community members to assist with trying to prevent our international students from getting scammed on one thing or getting in trouble. Next slide, please. So in America, you know, it's the land of the free, but it's really not that free. All right, we have laws, and there are different levels of laws. You know, down in from the federal laws from the U.S. to the state of California to the city and county of San Diego, all the way down to the university having their own laws we must abide by. Next slide, please. So, scams, extortion is our #1 scam for international students. The largest loss that we've come across is $322,000. And on the right, you can see the different currencies. And I'm pretty sure it's changed because it's from 2020. So I'm pretty sure it's gone up since then. But $322,000 is our largest loss so far. And that's just the largest. There are some that were 301,000, 290, 260 on down, all the way down to $50. So it's not just 322,000. Some of our international students have lost, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars multiple times by scam. Next slide, please. So the common scams and warnings are individuals will try to sell you things. One of the most common scams kind of fading out now a little bit, but if someone claiming to be a king, queen, or prince calls you or contacts you, you might want to think about that one before you talk to them. All right, credit card fraud is a huge one. Threats of arrest. Occasionally, we'll get majority of the time for these scams, scammers from other countries or the U.S. will call our international students and threaten arrest or threaten to hold your diploma. They will say they're from the Chinese consulate or the police or from U.S. Marshals or Border Patrol, and they will threaten the scam. They will threaten your arrest. All right, again, if you have any questions, you can hang up on them and you can come to the police department and we will get that straightened out. They'll threaten your visa. They'll offer to pay your tuition and third-party payments. So they'll have you go through someone else to pay them. All right. If you receive unfamiliar emails or texts or even phone calls, and phone calls are nonstop here in the U.S. and they'll call you, you'll answer, and then they'll threaten you, make threats, or say they're going to help you out in some way. But the most common sign of scams are when they're asking to be paid in Bitcoin, prepaid card, or Apple Pay. All right, when they ask you in America, no business will ask you to pay on a prepaid card or Apple Pay. So just be aware if that does happen. And when you receive an email, click on this link. When they ask you to click on this link, they'll be able to get into your computer and scam you that way, lock your computer down, and force you to pay money to unlock it. Next slide, please. So the IRS is another scam, the Internal Revenue Service in the U.S. and Social Security Department. They will threaten to hold your Social Security, the IRS. None of these departments will call you on the phone. So if you receive a call from the IRS, Social Security, or the DMV, then it is a scam. They go by mail and sometimes email. Well, actually not even email. Everything is by mail. All right, or you call them. So that they want you to call them. They will never call you on the phone. The U.S. government does not accept gift cards. They will never ask you for that. The U.S. government will never ask you for money over the phone. It'll be through mail. Next slide, please. So one way to be cautious and stay safe is don't share your personal information. Do not send nude photos of yourself. Some people start getting in relationships online, never have met the person before. They will Zoom and send photos of themselves. And me, myself, I've dealt with this hundreds of times with students asking me to get those nudes off the internet. And that is impossible, you know. So once it's out there, it is out there. And the people who are on the other end of that are going to have you send them money in order to get your pictures back. And then once you send them money, they're going to ask for more. Then they're going to ask for more. So do not send nude photos of yourself. Do not meet anyone you don't know personally, and do not send money to anyone you have not met or you do not know personally. Next slide, please. All right, be aware of you to talk to. You may think they look like this, but in reality, next slide, please. They look like that. All right, there's just me on the other end trying to get your money. All right, so just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. All right, identity theft includes that someone has stolen your identity. So if you start to see withdrawal from your bank account, if you stop getting your bills or other mail, if merchants start refusing your checks or credit cards, if it's denied once you swipe your credit card, debt collectors call you about debts that are not yours. If you find unfamiliar accounts on your credit report, if the IRS notifies you that you have more than one tax return filed, all of these are clues that your identity has been stolen. If that is the case, you need to lock down all your accounts and then come to the police department to make a report. All right, next slide, please. Ways to protect yourself: contact your consulate if there's any issue with any of your finances or any type of scam. Monitor your financial statements, check your credit reports regularly. Once you get here, please open up an American bank account. If you have a bank account in your country, there is nothing that we could do about it in the United States. All right, so if you get here, go to one of the banks, open up a small checking account, and use that one while you're here. You know, don't transfer all your money from your other one, but use that account while you're here. Shred your documents. Do not just throw them in the trash. Strengthen your passwords. Guard your social security number. So for the international students, once you come in and apply for a social security number, that is your number. Don't give it to your friends. Don't give it to anyone else. That is your number. All right. Passport and visa. You have to protect all of those things. They will steal your identity if that gets out. You want to use your social media wisely. Secure your phone. Know the signs of phishing and email scams, and keep your mail safe. Next slide, please. So if you're a victim of a crime, lock down all of your accounts, enroll in credit monitoring service, review your bank and credit card statements for unauthorized charges, review your credit reports again, and then if there is something, one of those previous incidents happened that I just mentioned, file a report with the Federal Trade Commission, and that number is at the bottom of this or in the middle of this slide. And then lastly, come into the police department, or if you're in the city of San Diego, if you're not on campus or whatever part of the city you're in, you have to file with your local agency. Next slide, please. All right, so if everyone could just screenshot this, if you have the ability to, just please screenshot it and save all of this information. My email is not on here, but I will put it in the chat if any of you have any questions. All right, and if you have any questions, just please email me. And going down the line, so the 534-HELP, that is to the UCSD Police Department, 858-534-4357. That is the non-emergency number for the police department. The police department's website is in the chat currently. So if you want to research, the different things that we do at the police department, please look at us on the website. We have university safety officials, so you'll see them around once you get to the dorms. And there are security guards that patrol that area. And then the community service officers, which I'm in charge of. If you need a job, please let me know, email me. And San Diego PD That's the local municipal agency that's around the campus. So that's their non-emergency number on the right. And then 911, if there's an emergency, will get you to everyone else. But thank you for having me, everyone. I'll give it back to Grace.
Thank you, Sheldon. All right, next we have John Carlos.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grace. Thank you for having me as always. Again, I'm John Carlos Sr. I'm the director at Student Legal Services. So my office, we have 2 attorneys who can help students out with any and all legal questions, issues, or problems. And so like Sergeant King before me, you'll see that I'll be talking a little bit about scams and what y'all can do to try to avoid those. And in fact, there's a question in the Q&A that I about an individual who shared their prepaid card information when setting up an account with University Credit Union. And to me, this is a really good sort of example of what you sort of want to keep in mind. And thank you for the question. If you go to, say, the University Credit Union website, which, by the way, is absolutely a legitimate entity, they have a branch right here on campus, and set up an account, and you proactively find them and contact them, that's going to generally be safe. The issue is, and something that, and hopefully that you got from Sergeant King's presentation, is that if they're not going to reach out to you and call you. The IRS, which is the tax service for the federal government, is not going to call you and tell you to send them Bitcoin or to send them gift cards. So you'll also, as the sergeant mentioned, you'll get phone calls all the time. I know I do every day, sometimes in English, sometimes not in English, telling me that I need to call somebody. There's a warrant for my arrest. That's just not how the government operates. So in this case, I expect, yes, you should be safe. I'm assuming that University Credit Union didn't call you and say, hey, we're a credit union, and give us your information. No, I assume you found them. And so again, you obviously want to verify the website. If somebody calls you and says, it could be a scam if you get a call from somebody claiming to be the University Credit Union saying, hey, you need to verify these charges. Hang up the phone, look up the official number that you can find online, call them back. That, to me, is one of the best things that you can do to avoid scams. So yes, you'll be hearing a lot more about scams. If you could please go to the next slide. Yes, more and more of the scams. So yes, again, we'll be talking about that a little bit. And of course, it's not just that international students are potentially targeted, but that, of course, that it happens to everybody, and it's just a question of getting to know sort of what to expect and what to be careful about. So a few things about insurance also, as well as living off campus, which I imagine some of y'all might be doing. So next slide, please. So if you look down at sort of my not exhaustive, not totally complete list of scams, but something that certainly I see at Student Legal Services. A lot of times scams will involve somebody asking you to deposit a fake check and to make a real electronic money transfer. In the meantime, they'll say, we're going to send you a bunch of money, whether it's for a job that's not real, or for an off-campus housing opportunity, or they'll offer to pay you. And then they'll ask you, while you wait for this check to arrive, to send them an electronic transfer in the meantime. Oh, would you mind going up one slide again, please? Oh, no, other way, please. Thank you. Yes. So that might happen. As mentioned, sometimes it's a phone call or an email, or even a text messages on your mobile phone that claims to be even from a credit card company. Some of those are legitimate. I always say, look up the number, call them back to verify. Do not assume that it's safe, even if it, even if a phone number looks legitimate. If you Google it and it says No problem. If you Google the number and you see, and that's the number that's coming up, and they're saying, "Hi, I'm from ICE," or which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. If I'm from Homeland Security, it might say the legitimate number, but it's masked. It's, in other words, it's a fake number that's appearing on your phone. Almost every, you're not going to get a phone call from Social Security or from the IRS or from Immigration and Customs Enforcement saying, you need to turn yourself in. You're under arrest. We have a warrant. The government is not going to contact you by phone. Okay, even the IRS will send you a letter. If in fact there's some obligation to respond. Okay. So assume the best thing you do to protect yourself is to take the additional step of, if it's a phone call or an email, don't just respond to that phone call or email. Hang up the phone. Look up the real legitimate email from the website, from the bank or credit union or company or government entity that you think you're dealing with, just to make sure that it's legitimate. Okay. We also see plenty of scams when it comes to renting. So unfortunately, including on our UCSD official website, they do a really great job of filtering out scams, but occasionally some will make it in. So when it comes to renting off-campus housing, do not pay and do not send any money until you've seen the place. Okay. And frankly, if it's too good to be true, if they say there's a place for $1,000 overlooking the ocean and a block from campus, it's where it's a 1-bedroom and you're that's certainly going to be a scam. So do not send money until you see the place. If that means you don't have a place to live off campus and you have to come to San Diego and stay in a hotel or some other alternative accommodations for a week or two, I'd suggest you do that rather than sending a security deposit for a place that you haven't seen. Craigslist is just nothing but scams. And unfortunately, you'll see them, on Facebook. You'll see them. A lot of folks use Zillow. Some of those are very legitimate. Some of those are absolutely not. As I said previously, sometimes I'll see hear about job postings, including on the UCSD official website, which is called Handshake, for a job where they'll offer to pay you a bunch of money to be a shopper. They'll send you a check again that turns out to be fake, that if you try to deposit it, it won't work. But in the meantime, they'll ask you to send an actual electronic money transfer. And if you do that, you're not going to see that money again, unfortunately. Fake merchandise. Sure, there are folks who are going to want to buy merchandise from certain brands. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to tell sometimes that those are fake. Sometimes folks come onto campus with will drive on campus with a bunch of fake Air Jordans or fake leather jackets and set up shop in a parking lot. Chances are that's fake. Okay. Anytime anybody asks you to send a prepaid card or again, Bitcoin or iTunes gift card, that's absolutely a scam. Okay. Again, do not send any money until and unless you have the keys to the rent, to the rental that you're looking at, until you see the actual merchandise and have it in hand, until you actually have a contract. Do not send money until you've done some due diligence. Okay, until you've taken some steps to protect your safety. The other thing, in my experience, that will happen is they'll tell you you need to send this now. They'll give you a sense that you have to respond immediately. They'll try to create a sense of urgency. And they'll also say, don't call the police or you're going to get in more trouble. Don't tell anybody about this or you're going to get in more trouble. That's absolutely, if they're telling you that is absolutely false. Okay. If they're telling you don't contact the police, you should probably be contacting the police. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so not scams are, but I always want to talk about insurance. It's not so insurance. Every country in the world seems to have different types of rules when it comes to insurance. So here's just a real brief introduction to insurance in the United States. Again, it's not a scam, but in order to be a student at UCSD and to be on campus, you'll need to have medical insurance. You'll need to have dental insurance, and you might want to have dental insurance. And one thing that you need to be aware of is if you go to a doctor, if you go to a dentist and they're suggesting particular procedure, they're suggesting particular dental work. You have to contact your insurance to find out if your insurance will cover it. And so one of the things that I see that happens, I think, to a decent number of international students is that they'll say, go get cosmetic dental work. The dentist or the person at the billing person at the dentist office will say, oh yeah, this, if you get Invisalign, if you get this cosmetic dental work done, it'll be covered by your insurance. It's only your insurance that makes that decision. So you unfortunately cannot rely on what the folks at the medical office or the dental office say in terms of what's covered or not. They can hopefully maybe give you an idea, but you absolutely should verify with insurance. Okay. Also, if you're living, whether it's on campus or off campus, you want to get good renter's insurance. So that's insurance that covers people when they're renting a place in terms of, number one, their personal property. So, your computer, your bicycle, your shoes, your cell phone, that sort of a thing. Also liability. This is not something you need on campus, but if you live off campus, liability coverage basically is to protect you in case somebody gets hurt. If they're visiting you, I always say also try to get loss of use coverage. So almost all renters insurance, number one, I say get the best you can afford when it comes to renters insurance. And I would just say do some research online. There are plenty of insurance companies that offer renters insurance. And again, on campus, they do as well. But you can get insurance to protect from your personal property and for liability if somebody gets injured. But really, sometimes those come standard with most all renters insurance policies. One that doesn't always is loss of use coverage. And that's basically for that very rare occasion where something really big happens at a residence, the plumbing fails and suddenly there's a flood. And you have to move out a day or two or a week while they do repairs to the floor or the walls. It's, like I said, rare, but it does happen, unfortunately. So if you are renting off campus or on campus, as I said, get the best renter's insurance, and particularly for living off campus, get loss of use coverage. I absolutely strongly recommend it. The other thing is that I'll mention is that fortunately, there's not a lot of violent crime that happens in the area around UC San Diego, and certainly not on campus, but property crime is legitimate. And so you want to be careful when it comes to, if closing your windows and doors when you leave, locking them, making sure that everything's secure when you come in, when you come out of your residence, again, whether it's on or off campus. And another protection is getting renter's insurance that will cover in case there's loss, theft, or damage of that property. Okay, so be very vigilant, be very careful when it comes certainly to theft or break-ins. Again, the crime rate around here, fortunately, is low, but it has gotten higher over the past few years when it comes to property crime. Okay, if you're going to rent a car, or if you're going to be driving regularly, get the best automobile insurance you can. Getting liability insurance basically covers you if it is your fault and you get in an accident. It doesn't cover anything else. So if you own a vehicle and it's somebody else, if something happens and somebody else gets in an accident with you and it's not your fault, you will not be covered. Now, hopefully you can get a claim from them, but sometimes other drivers do not have sufficient insurance. So I say get the best auto insurance you can get. And by the way, you can typically bundle, in other words, get a discount for getting multiple types of insurance from one company. Renter's insurance shouldn't cost you more than $10 to $15 a month. I think it's totally worth it. Automobile insurance, that's a little more expensive, but obviously, as I suggested, get the best insurance you can afford when it comes to auto insurance. Comprehensive insurance to me is the best, is what you want to look into. Check out the Student Legal Services website if you want to find out more, as well as a couple of the links that Grace kindly dropped in the chat in terms of information about insurance and generally about introduction to California and United States law. The United States has a different set of laws and rules than the state of California, and the state of California has different laws and rules than the San Diego, the city of San Diego does. One of the biggest, most obvious sort of subjects when it comes to this is marijuana. Marijuana is federally illegal. That means it's not legal anywhere in the United States, and yet California law says it's lawful to possess if you have it in private property off campus. You can't have marijuana on campus under any circumstances. But that's obviously very confusing, and I would say be very careful when it comes to drugs, when it comes to alcohol, because that can absolutely affect your visa status. Okay. The other thing I'll just mention is that, and just so you're aware, if the police contact you for whatever reason, you want to be very careful about what you say. You always have the right to remain silent. You have to identify yourself accurately if you are off campus, on campus. Off campus, that's not necessarily the rule. If you're driving, you have to have a valid driver's license, things like that. But understand that you do have the right to remain silent if a police officer contacts you and wants to get information if they're investigating. So keep that in mind as well. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And then I think my last slide, hopefully, when it comes to living off campus. So a few tips for off-campus housing. You want to be mindful of who you are renting with. If you sign a lease and there are other tenants on the same lease, that means that y'all are jointly and severally liable. And that basically means that each roommate, each tenant is responsible for the entirety of the obligations under the lease. So in other words, if you share a lease with a few other tenants and the monthly rent is due and you have a decision, you have an agreement where each of you pays some sort of portion of that rent, the law says that if the rent is, the October rent comes up and you pay your share, but one of your roommates doesn't pay their share, the landlord can hold both the other tenant who didn't pay and you and anybody else who signed the lease, including co-signers or guarantors, which is the same meaning. They can be held equally responsible too. So be very careful about who you're going to be living with. Do your best to get to know the people that you're going to live with before you sign an agreement, so that you can be sure that they're going to be paying their rent on time. If you want, you could look into getting using a roommate agreement, which we do have on our website, to sort of clarify the expectations and understandings of everybody. That's customizable. You can change it as you need, but definitely look into using a roommate agreement. The single biggest issue that we see at Student Legal Services is for off-campus housing, folks who are trying to get their security deposits back. So that's an amount of money that a tenant pays the landlord at the beginning of the lease, and the landlord holds onto until the end of the lease, and then is supposed to give it back. But they will keep some if cleaning needs to happen, if repairs need to be made, or if rent is unpaid. So when it comes to security deposits, the best thing you can do is take lots of pictures when you move in. Do the same thing when you move out. Lots and lots of photos. You can also take video. Just make sure that you can keep track of those, so that if you ever need to use them to prove the condition of the plates when you moved in and when you moved out, that you're able to do that. You can also even fill out an inspection checklist. A lot of bigger residential complexes will have forms that they'll have you fill out within the first 3 days of you living there. But make sure that you are proactive about filling out, about documenting the condition of the place, and that includes photos and an inspection checklist. At the end of the lease, you should give notice before you, a certain number of days notice. As you can see, it's 30 days under most leases. Before the lease ends, you always want to request a pre-move out inspection. And if there are any repairs that need to be made, if the plumbing's not working, if there's a leak, put it in writing as soon as possible. Let the landlord know. If you don't do that, if you don't let them know because you're too busy and it gets worse, they could hold you responsible. So as soon as you identify a problem, you need to notify the landlord or the leasing office in writing. And if you want us to look at a lease before you sign it, please contact us, or any other questions about off-campus housing. Please, next slide. That's Mary Anand. So Mary Anand is the other attorney in our office. So it's myself, John Carlos, and Mary Anand. We're your two free lawyers. So that's where we're located. Always call us ahead of time if you want to talk to us. But we'll be happy to speak to you if you have any questions about anything I've talked about or here, or anything else. I'll go ahead now and turn it back to Grace to introduce our next speaker. And thank you so much. And I'll be around for any questions.
Thank you. Yes. Obviously a wealth of information, and we really do encourage students to utilize student legal services. It is a really great resource. It's pretty unique. So we really, are thankful for their partnership, as well as all of our partners here. And with that, we're going to hand it over to Liz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Grace. Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Liz Garcia, and I'm the Senior Victim Advocate at the CARE at the Sexual Assault Research Center. Next slide, please. And as I was mentioning earlier, CARE at SARC is the free and confidential research that's on campus for services around sexual assault, relationship violence, and stalking. We serve all of the UC San Diego campus community, so students, staff, faculty, anybody who might be impacted by any of these specific issues. We are a survivor center and empower-based, trauma-informed resource for our community. We address, again, issues with sexual assault, dating and relationship violence, and stalking. And you don't have to be a victim or a survivor yourself to access some of our resources. You can also perhaps be supporting somebody who might be going through a difficult situation. So if you have a roommate, if you have a friend, if you don't know how to support them, you can also come in, meet with one of the advocates, and just talk a little bit more about how to support them through that process. Next slide, please. So some of the CARE at SARC services are, we are available for support on crises 24/7. We have our phone number, which is listed in one of the slides, in one of the next slide. We are available for talking on the phone 24/7. So if there's a situation that comes up and somebody needs to talk to somebody about what's going on, whether or not they need to access some medical services, they can call our office and somebody will talk to them, again, 24/7. We are able to provide information about rights and options. So when an incident happens, the survivor, the victim, they have rights and options that we would want to make sure that they are aware of. So if there's an incident and somebody wants to report to the police, we want to make sure that they have all of the information available so that they can make a decision whether or not they want to go to the police. If there's any sort of medical needs, we can also talk a little bit more about that. We provide advocacy and case management. So for example, sometimes when somebody wants to report to the police, or if they want to report an incident to the university, they then engage in this reporting process. So as an advocate, I can accompany somebody throughout the entire process of that reporting process. So if it's, going to the detective interview, so I'm very familiar with UC San Diego Police Department. So we will come to the police department. I'll be with the survivor or the victim who's potentially reporting a crime. So as advocates, we're able to just provide that support as they are engaging in this reporting process. And then also we have holistic and healing programs. So we have a peer support group. We are constantly offering other healing spaces for survivors. This upcoming fall, we're going to be offering the Yoga Healing Program. So it's always really great to stay connected with our department through our social media, because then that way you're able to see some of the options when it comes to healing that we offer. And then on a little bit more of an education prevention kind of like area of our department, we do mandatory education, to similar to what we're doing here today. All of our incoming students, whether they're transfer students or international students, everybody gets information about sexual assault, dating and domestic violence and stalking, and as well as prevention and just information about the resources. And then we also do consultation, and we provide liaison through a lot of student orgs on campus. So sometimes organizations will want to create a program, a workshop, so they can come into our space and meet with one of our prevention specialists to consult on what it is that they would like to offer for their student org or for their groups, and we can provide that consultation. And then similarly, we also offer other events and programs across the academic year. We're constantly trying to collaborate with colleges, with, again, other student orgs, just to bring to light some of these issues and just educate the campus community. And lastly, we do trauma-informed training and response. So we are, again, constantly trying to collaborate with other departments, whether it's training their staff and faculty or providing programs and workshops for students. Next slide, please. So this is our phone number. This is our office, our email address. If there's any specific information or you would like to schedule an appointment with one of the advocates, this is the email that you would like to email. That's the phone number, and that's the phone number that I was saying that it is answered 24/7. So if it's a Friday, night, you can call and somebody will talk to you. And if there's a need for somebody to connect you to, again, medical services or to the police, they're able to do that. Something really important to note is that our services are confidential, free and confidential. So what that means is that we are not a responsible employee. Other staff, faculty, professors that you might encounter when you arrive to UC San Diego, you'll know that they are not confidential, that they will keep your information private, but if there's an incident or it's a crime, or if your life is in danger, they will have to report that to the university. And so in our case, we're able to keep our conversations confidential. That way you are able to understand and know all of your rights and your options before you make a decision on whether or not you want to report an incident. Advocates are on call, after hours advocacy available for urgent safety and forensic exams. This is something that's really important because if, again, there's an incident in the middle of the night and somebody decides that they do want to get a forensic examination, we would have an advocate available. And then, again, we are able to meet with folks who are interested. They can request an appointment. Perhaps they might not know if our services are appropriate for what their needs are, but it's always best to just check in with an advocate, and if we are not the appropriate resource, we'll make sure that we connect you to the appropriate resource. But again, just remember we are available for consultation and for appointments. And then if you're interested in requesting a training or a program or workshop for a student org that you might be part of, this is the email address, this is the website that you can click, and this is to request a program. Next, please. So some of the just safety online that I would like to share with you all, similar to what Sheldon was talking about. Consider when you get here, kind of like the things that you might share with somebody if you're meeting somebody online or if you're meeting somebody in real life, just some of the things to keep private, keep in mind, kind of like where you live, not sharing your location right away, the geotagging on pictures and sharing content. That's something that's it's really easy to access. And so if you're sharing pictures with somebody who you might not know that well, it's important to keep that in mind. So if you kind of like remove that, that will be safer. The use of privacy setting features on your phone and on your computer, who can view your page, social media. Sometimes, if you are sharing a lot of information about your day-to-day and your social media is open to the public and you're tagging kind of like where you're going, what you're doing, who you are with, that can also be problematic for somebody who might have or display stalking behaviors. Or if you're in a relationship or you start dating somebody and you start to notice that they are, displaying some of these like dating, domestic violence, just situations, it would be important to make sure that your privacy is a little bit more tightened. And again, these are some things that you can request an appointment to talk to an advocate and just try to, address some of these things, discuss some of the questions that you might have, or how to continue to be safe online or in real life as you are perhaps making more friends, meeting people, dating people. And then, of course, reporting any sort of repeated unwanted encounters. So if there's a situation where you have made very, very clear that you do not wish to engage with this other person, and then continue to approach you or message you or call you, text you, this is where you can come in, talk to one of us, and we'll see what we can do. If it's appropriate to report to the police, if we need to think about perhaps a restraining order, we can provide support around that as well. And then other authorities, of course, again, like I mentioned, we were really closely with the UC San Diego Police Department. We're also we have really great connections with the San Diego Police Department. So when there are incidents that require us to access some of these resources with the police, we make sure that we connect you or the survivor, the victim, with one of these police departments. Next. So that was my portion. This is again all of our contact information. If you scan this QR, you'll be able to access our website and just learn a little bit more about our resources and the things that we can offer. I always suggest students to follow our social media presence, because again, this is where you would learn about different programs, events that we might be hosting across campus. And also we do provide information about some, information about healthy relationships. So we do a lot of the prevention education through our social media as well. I'll stick around if anybody has questions, but thank you so much. Back to you, Grace.
Thank you, Liz. All right, and with that, we'll hand it over to Student Financial Solutions.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you to all the presenters prior to me. Again, my name is Casper. I'm a student accounts advisor here with Student Financial Solutions. I'm going to briefly go over some scams as well as some safety tips for you guys in order for paying and billing and all of that. Next slide, please. So first things first, protecting your login credentials is key and important. Never sharing your information online with anyone or providing any financial information is very important. You want to keep all that private and secure with yourself. It says on here, don't provide any financial information to anyone outside your family. I would say, obviously, if it's a trusted family member, then you should be okay. But still, I would recommend keeping that to yourself. In regards to Student Financial Solutions and billing and payment, if you want your parent to have the to be authorized to contact your office anytime in order to ask about billing or payment in regards to your student account, you would need to first authorize them as a payer to your account. According to federal law, our office is not able to disclose any account specific information. So at least you know on our end, if your parents or anyone else ever contacts us for some reason trying to ask information about your account, we cannot disclose that information to anyone unless you yourself authorize them, and you can do so through your Triton Pay, which is the billing website. So that's first, number one. Use official payment methods. All the official payment methods online are through Triton Pay, which is again your billing and payment portal. Also, if you're trying to pay in person, that's going to be with the cashier's office. They're on the first floor of the Student Services Center. Our office, Student Financial Solutions, is on the third floor. So if you aren't paying in person at the cashier's office, and if you aren't paying online through Triton Pay, those are the only two official payment methods or routes for official payment methods. So don't use any other ones. And avoid solicitations. So do not respond to third-party solicitations for payment of tuition fees. If a third party contacts you regarding you needing to send a payment to them in order to pay on behalf of you in regards to your tuition, registration fees, or anything, I would not trust or recommend that at all. To be safe, take it to the source for where it is that you need to make a payment. For tuition, registration fees, anything related to your education here at UCSD or anything that just is billed to your student account. If you have questions in regards to what you're paying before you pay it or how to pay, feel free to contact again Student Financial Solutions. We're more than happy and welcome to help you out. A popular tuition, or not tuition, but housing scam is WeHousing. This has been known, and so we just want to stress that there's other scams out there, but WeHousing is a popular one. Again, it's a third-party company, and they're going to say that they do the housing search for you. They'll pay your deposits, your rent, and all of that. And students will oftentimes receive eviction notices because WeHousing, that third-party company, never sent the payments to the owners of the place. So if you're trying to look for off-campus housing, again, look for the appropriate and legitimate sources offered through UCSD. There was other sources notified prior in this presentation. And so just make sure to utilize those if you have any questions about it. And again, if you receive a phone call that's suspicious, you are not obligated to stay on the phone with this person that you don't know. Simply hang up and refuse to cooperate with any of their threats. Contact the UC San Diego police. And then after contacting them, notify ISPO in order to make sure that you're safe and you're secure and that you follow all the appropriate chains. Next slide, please. So again, this is just a little bit more in depth about our accepted payment plans. If you're paying online, we have to the left e-check, credit card, and our international payment options, Flywire, Convera. So with e-check, this is our recommended payment method. If you're paying online, it's a 50-cent service fee attached to it. And when you're paying by e-check, you're either paying with a checking or a savings account. This has to be linked to a US bank account. So if you don't have a US bank account yet, your best option would be the next two if you're paying online, either through credit card. Credit card is a 2.75% service fee. So unless you have the means of paying for that service fee attached to it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend credit card unless this is your only option. We accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. And again, this can only be made online. You can't pay in person with credit card or over the phone for that matter. Flywire and Convera, again, these are our international payment options. We also use bank transfer, which is an option through Triton Pay. Triton Pay, which our payment vendor is Transact. They utilize services through TransferMate to initiate international payments. So if you don't want to use Flywire or Convera, the third option, which should be listed on Triton Pay whenever you're paying online through international payment methods. Depending on what country you select online through Triton Pay, it'll give you your available options. And those will be the three. We aren't accepting direct wire transfers to UCSC's bank account as an FYI. So those are the available options listed for payments online. If you have questions about those, feel free to contact Student Financial Solutions again. For paying in person, cash, again, that's at the Central Cashier's Office located at the first floor of the Student Services Center. We recommend obviously to not mail in a cash payment. If you're going to mail in a payment to the cashier's office, you can mail in a personal check or a cashier's check. You can drop those off in person as well. But if you're going to mail a payment, it would be a check payment. Please don't mail a cash payment. Whenever you do mail a check payment, please make sure that your name, PID number are on the check somewhere, and then you make the check payable to UC Regents. Third party. So we were talking about third party stuff prior, but this is in regards to third party billing. And this is an acceptable method. Basically what happened. Oh, could you go back to, thank you. Sorry about that. So again, this is where you actually receive sponsorship from a third party organization. For international students, this could be your government, for example. And so if they want to sponsor your time at UCSD and pay for your education in the form of covering your tuition or registration fees, that is an acceptable method. And through third party, we set that up with you would send over your financial guarantee from your sponsor. We would email you a billing authorization to sign. And after you do that, we would invoice your sponsor each term you are covered. And then we send instructions on the invoice for how the sponsor would be able to pay for that. That's if you have third-party sponsorship. And then 529 plan, this is a prepaid educational savings plan. These are considered a cash payments. So most of the time you would be having the 529 agency sending over a check payment. And again, whenever they send the check payments and mail it to UCSD, they're mailing it to the Central Cashier's Office mailing address. You make the check payable to UC Regents, and then on the check itself, it includes your name and PID number so that we place the payment to the correct account. There are some select plans that are made electronic payments available through Triton Pay. There's a $10 service fee attached to it if it's available. If 529 is an option for you, you would just check Triton Pay and see if the agency is listed on there, if that's an option you want to go down. Otherwise, mailing in the payment would be the method. Next slide, please. And that's it for my portion. This is all the contact information for Student Financial Solutions. Feel free to contact us using either the support portal to create a case with our office. You can call our phone number. Our in-person hours should be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Thursday is going to be 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then we also have an Instagram page, UCSD SFS. We post pretty regular updates on there, so feel free to check us out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Casper. So as you all can see, we have so many partners with us that really ensure your journey here at UC San Diego is as safe as possible and provide great resources to ensure that. So we have different contact information on the screen right now. Please do follow up with our different offices here. These are truly content area experts in so many of the topics that we've covered and more. We are unfortunately at time for today, so we don't have too much time for a Q&A, but I do know that we've had questions being answered throughout today's session. So I hope that this session was helpful for you. Please do reach out if you ever have any follow-up questions. And with that, take good care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.